Hey everyone, this is Sean Anthony making another installment of my Hyper Turbo series. Today it's going to be a one tabling live session of the micro stakes. I figured two tabling was a bit hectic and I wasn't able to explain the decisions I was making as detailed as I'd like to, so I decided to give a one tabling session a shot. Flatting 10th jack suited is standard here for me. It's a very playable hand, post-flop, shallow stack depth. This flop is a flop I'm not going to touch. Fold. Once again, I'm not playing with the HUD. These opponents I'll be playing are players I have not seen. One note that I'll take immediately is, well, not a note, but I can tell that this guy might be a fish because of his cell phone icon. 10-8 suited is a very logical hand to start bluffing on the flop. There's no showdown value, and I have a lot of equity with my open-ended straight draw. This turn typically is not good for me. I just knowing my play style, I'm not c-betting a lot of middle pairs, so his range actually improves in this card more than mine does, so against a better opponent, I think I would be checking back a lot here. Against this player, I think I'll continue betting to get him off with 3x and higher draws that possibly call the flop and can't call turns such as Queen 8, Queen 10, King 10, possibly, yeah, you know, random ace-x's that he might have called on flop. King 5 off is a standard open for me. It's a hand that I like min-raising even at shallower stack depths due to the king blockers, which reduce the combinations he'll be 3-betting me and or calling me pre-flop. I generate more fold equity with my king x blocker pre-flop. King jack offsuit is a standard 3-bet shove hand for me at 16 big blinds. 2-4 offsuit, especially against a seemingly weaker opponent, I will limp and look to play a pot post-flop. It keeps the effective stack size a little bit deeper. I'm in position, which enables me to barrel more streets. If I was to min-raise and he was to call, it would set up a stack situation where it would be very unlikely for me to be able to 3-barrel and shove a river for an intimidating size. Here I'm able to do that if the opportunity presented itself. I'll check back bottom pair here, look to get to showdown. Most likely call one street if he was to bet. I will call one street, especially for this size. And I will fold river. I'll have 6x's. I'll have 6x hands that I'll call possibly. I'll have queen x to check back the flop. I'll have some river 2 pair, all hands that are better to call than my 2 here. Again, an easy 3-bet shove. Again, this is a hand that I'll min-raise. It's a limp is fine against certain opponents. An open shove is fine against certain opponents. Just as a standard, I like to min-raise a wide portion of my hand range because I think players at this level are overfolding against the min-raise. You should be defending against the min-raise at a very wide range, especially shallow stacks. And I don't think opponents understand completely how wide they should be defending, so I like to take advantage of that fold equity. I'm looking to get to showdown here with my king high. I think against most opponents at this level, you can get away with c-betting your entire range on an ace-high board, but I like to balance a little bit, and since I'll be c-betting all of my no showdown value hands, I think putting in all of my King X hands will just be setting up a situation where I'll be exploitably continuation betting on the flop. I'll check back again. I possibly will call if he decides to bet this river. I don't think that's necessary though, depending on the size, because I'll have some Jack X that check back 2 streets. I'll have a lot of 9X actually, and I'll have some 4X and backdoor club flushes. So I think unless he c-bets very small size, calling my king high here is probably putting too many hands in my calling range. Again, I think you can get away with c-betting on ace-high boards at this level just due to the fact that it's pretty well known. Even fish know that it's at very shallow stack sizes. Almost all ace-highs will be 3-bet shoved, and it's a situation where your relative hand strength is just far superior to your opponent's. Unfortunately, it looks like this guy is disconnected. I will pause this video until I find a new opponent or his connection gets better. Alright guys, I am back. I apologize for the slowness of that last game. Typically I will put like the bottom 5 or 10% of all hands into my limping range to start. I just think that'll show more of a profit than open folding or possibly min raising, and it allows me to pick up on some information about my opponent's tendencies against the limp. Here I will check back, call 1 street with my hard draw and pair, and I think I will fold this river. Very standard defend by me. We'll call 1 street. I think against certain opponents a check raise is good here. It's a hand that doesn't have much equity. But if an opponent is folding a lot to check raises, I think it's a good option to have. And here, as check back so quickly, I think this is a spot actually for very large sizing. I think 320 gets it done, 380 as well. I'm going to have so many Queen X and Jack X that it's very impossible for, he shouldn't be calling with Ace X there. And I have so many combinations of Queen X and Jack X, whereas he, especially with his timing tell, or supposed timing tell of checking back quickly on the queen turn, it's unlikely that he does have that queen. I think if a guy did turn trips, he would at least think about betting there, and most likely he would bet. He wouldn't slow play most of the time. So I have to worry somewhat about jacks, but again, it's a possibility that players check back middle pair on the flop, so the frequency of his Jack X there is not high either, and therefore I can take advantage of that, shoving my no showdown value hands and my 3Xs that got negated on the river. I will check call 1 street here. This is with the intention of possibly bluffing on some scary cards if he was to check back like a 10 or a 5 turn. And also there's the possibility that he just checks down and we win with our 6s. Again, another hand that I will limp here. This is a good betting opportunity on the flop. We have backdoor straight draw and flush draw and absolutely no showdown value. And also we block possible ace-high hands that he decided not to shove. Ace-3, ace-5 are hands that maybe he wouldn't shove pre-flop. This just doesn't make sense to me, but yeah, there's nothing we can do. Easy shove pre-flop. Ace-8, I think, again, you have options here. You can limp against a player who shoves very wide against limps. You can open shove. I think that's the standard play here. Pick up the big blind very often, and when we're called, we're not necessarily behind. We have good equity against a calling range. I'm going to fold 8-4 suited here. Limp Queen-6 suited at 12 big blinds. I will c-bet here with the intention of calling a shove, expecting a lot of worse 6s and 3s to be check raise, getting it in, just because they're scared of, you know, calling and playing turns and rivers because of like so many higher cards being possible. We run into 6s and 3s, which is just unfortunate, and we get lucky. All right, give me 1 second to load up another game. All right, we have a third game against another player I don't have any information on. Ace-3 suited is a hand that I will typically shove pre-flop. There are many aces that I will just flat, but those are of the offsuit variety. And you know, if I'm flatting Ace-2 off through, let's say, Ace-5 off there without any information, it gives me a lot of combinations where I can rep aces on the flop and put my opponent in situations, you know, where typically ace-high boards are boards that our opponents are very aggressive against due to their relative hand or relative range strength. So it allows us to take advantage of those times they might be more aggressive than they should be. Here's a place where I can check back with my high card showdown. I think, again, this is an exploitable c-bet where I can just pick up the pot very often. It's not a situation where he will probably be able to defend a wide enough range against such a small c-bet, but here, without any information, I will fold, even though it's kind of dirty to fold to that, getting those odds. I will fold. I will also make a note of that check raise. This is a standard 3-bet shove here. It's possible to make a note. I would make a note, min raise call 3-3 at 23 big blinds. Just, you know, it's a lot of players have different strategies with small pocket pairs at 24, 25 big blinds. You know, some like to limp. Nowadays, it used to be that all players just open shoved pocket 2s, pocket 3s, maybe pocket 4s at deeper stacks, but that became kind of exploitable because most players wouldn't balance with, you know, a few combinations of ace-2 off or ace-3 off. So nowadays, you know, there's players that'll limp, there's players that are min-raise call 3-3 like you saw there, and there's players that are slow open shove. So that gives me some idea of how to play against his ranges, due to the fact that now when he open shoves at, say, 18 big blinds, maybe it isn't the same as other players' ranges. I'm not saying it's a ton of information, but, you know, gives us something to work with. Queen-6 suited, I believe, is pretty close here. I think I'll call. Three-nine suited is a hand that is not shovable based on Nash, but I think I will put it into my limping range, and I'm going to balance out hands like this with pocket pairs, so it's not an exploitable situation for my opponent just shoving over all these limps. I will put tons of combinations of my pocket pairs in to balance this out, along with, you know, occasional like ace-king, king-queen, king-jack type hand. Unless strategy has changed recently, I believe getting it all in with kings here is the best play. Again, so this guy is just min-raise calling a very wide range, which I don't necessarily think is wrong if he balances it correctly, but it's definitely not standard nowadays. So seeing these two hands, immediately I think to exploit this, I would open up my value 3-bet shoving range. Now I'd add hands that typically maybe I would flat. I would start shoving just because of the added benefit of him calling with many worse combinations. Queen 9 suited. This is an interesting spot, I think. At 12, 11 and a half big blinds, I think open shoving's fine. With no reads, I think if I'm limping here, I'm going to limp call. I don't think you can fold. Queen 9 suited is a very good hand. And limping, allows him the possibility of shoving worse. And, yeah. Once he shoves, it actually helps our chances down the road also of reducing his bluff shoves. It'll allow us to probably shove wider range and limit his exploitation of a wider limping range, allowing us to play more pots even at shallow stack depth. Queen 9 suited is about as weak as I could limp there with the intention of calling, 9-10 suited, 10-jack suited. They're similar, a bit stronger hands, but yeah, Queen 9 suited is the same strategic line of thinking. So I will load up one more game and be right back. Alright, we have a fourth game here. The guy looks like he's on his iPad, so I will think he'll have some weaker tendencies. Ace 9 offsuit is a min-raise call versus a shove. He's playing extremely quick. I will check back here. I don't know any of his tendencies. I'll call one street to this size bet and hopefully a turn of 6. Here I think a half size bet is looking for some weakish value. I'm going to take an exploitable line and raise here with the intention of shoving rivers. So it looked like he was straight up bluffing. So a note I would take in limp to pot, half pot, double barrel, weak. I will fold 5-10 suited. You should be defending a fairly wide range, getting those odds though. You only need to put 60 more into a pot of 140, so you should be defending 60% plus of your range. This is a very good candidate to start bluffing on the flop. I will 3-exit here. Continue min-raising strong hands. I think the only option here is to flat with my 2 overs to the queen. There's a strong possibility we had the best hand. Again, getting these odds, even if he has a 6x or a queen x, we're getting 4-1, so we basically need 20% equity right now, and I think that's very likely considering there are numerous times where ace high is good. And here I will have many more hands to call with, so we can easily fold or ace high. Good play by him if he had a 5-7 or 7-8 or just another random bluff. Here I will 2.5 exit. With my diamond, I don't think this is a bad place to just check. looking at my whole range, I think I have a lot of overcards that don't hit this flop. I think actually my opponent's range is should be stronger on this flop. Granted, I don't think that's necessarily true actually. We have all the overpairs, but I think 8x, 4x, 3x, there are more in his range than mine. So with the diamond, I have some protection against future street bets. So it's a good candidate to put in our checking range and see, like, if he checked down there, I don't expect him to have anything. So he had 10-jack suited here. So it allows him the possibility of hitting, the 12% of the time he hits a 10 or jack on the turn, I just get his stack. I don't think it's likely that a player at this level is going to be floating with 10-jack suited, looking to take away the pot on a future street. So I think that actually, in theory, is the best play against his actual hand there. Alright guys, I think that will end my video, and please leave any comments in the comment section underneath the video, and I will get back to you quickly, and thanks for watching.